Good morning, everyone. I want to show you something. A friend of mine, Selena Fenich actually, drew that. And I have a tattoo of that fairy crying for nature on my back. And the reason I'm showing you this is because, well, I love nature. And I know how important it is. And I'm going to be showing you something, and I'm not going to dance around the bush, but I'm actually really nervous about this because I'm not a very strong reader. So let me just go to my share screen, and first I have to go grab it. Bear with me, please. Grab your coffee. I've got mine. I'm going to be putting 2 tabs up on my screen. I've been doing this for over a year, and I'm still, I still get nervous. All right. I'm looking for one more. One of these days, I'll get more organized with my files, right? Okay. I have both tabs up on my screen overhead now. So I guess the reason I'm so nervous is because of the long read that I'm about to attempt. I'm not going to be reading the whole thing. I will be skimming through a little bit, but I want you guys to really get the understanding of where I'm understanding this. Okay? All right. So let's share screen. My heart's pounding out of my chest. I've been reading this for a while. And, yeah. Most of you know that I live in the foothills of the Adirondacks, okay? And, it's a beautiful place, and there's just something about it, you know? So I'm going to have to now go to another screen due to the fact that, well, when I pushed that to read it better, it didn't move with me. So bear with me again. All right. There we go. The reason history is so important, okay? All right, so I'm not going to get into a lot of names or whatever, but New York State Forest Preserve lands of the Adirondacks and the Catskills are living fossils of the broad 19th century movement to protect wild forests and federal public land in the West as forest reserves and not as national forest sources of fiber, forage, and minerals. All right, real quick, I'm going to make this big and get me out of here. Okay. New York State's forest preserves or preserved lands, therefore, are living proof that the wilderness preservation movement is not an upstart 20th century offshoot of the mainstream American conservation movement. The Adirondack and Catskills preserve the historical fact that the wilderness preservation movement is a continuous living stream of America's enduring determination to protect and preserve a significant remnant of its public wildlands to which a cultural geographer, Brett Wallach, writes, progress otherwise would show no mercy. The Adirondacks also are the locus of the, significant legacy of wilderness preservation advocacy, and served as the training ground for the National Conservation Coalition building that would launch the mid-1950s campaign to achieve the Federal Wilderness Act of 1964. The so-called Black River War begun in the 1940s to save the wilderness as the Western Adirondacks from dam proposals provided first and regional stage of the two-stage training ground for the National Citizen Campaign for the Wilderness Act. One great way to bring this story into focus is to put Verplanck Colvin and his Adirondack State Land Survey begun in 1870 into their proper national context. Most eyes had turned westward for broad horizons by post-Civil War 1870s, the so-called Great Surveys, were then working the West as complex scientific expeditions, some with military escort and even military leadership. Standard histories of the great convergence of government, science, and the military have canonized 4 Western expeditionary forces, the Wheeler, Hayden, King, and the Powell surveys. But Michael Peter Cohen has pointed out that there were 5th Great Western Scientific Survey. John Muir, no matter that Muir conducted a one-person survey, his research into the Sierra Nevada of California was not government sponsorship. Military escorted the expeditionary wandering. There was a lone wilderness researcher ended up assailing the official Western science establishment and winning on its own development turf of sheer empiricism. So just skipping down here at issues was, what had sculpted the land? And that was a question. Was it great floods or continental glaciers or what? The evidence lie high in the mountain wilderness of Sierra Nevada. So this goes on about Nevada and California. Scrolling down a little bit, John Muir would soon be battling in the West to go certain public land designated as forest reserves, just as Verplanck Colvin's Adirondack Survey report and speeches encouraged New York State eventually to design certain public lands as forest preserves. We owe today's enduring resource of wilderness in New York State and arguably in the nation too, to the fact that the people of the Empire State opted for the preserve, not the reserve, and then stuck by their guns. In essence, Colvin was conducting a 6th Great Survey, but in the East, where Massachusetts native Henry David Thoreau had remarked in 1848, perhaps with a mite of jealousy, that New York State had its own wilderness within its borders. So scrolling down a little bit, it talks about Theodore Roosevelt. It is ironic that Roosevelt was informed he was president in the Adirondacks. The same co-option was attempted in the Adirondacks too. Timber interests argued long and hard that the New York State should allow suitable or sustainable harvest of the timber on its forest preserve lands. But even the countries in which forest preserve lands voted against such a move. If you let the loggers in, it would get out of hand, they said. Except for the National Wilderness Preservation System, sustainable federal forestry was and remains today and unrealized optimism of the neo-Darwinism myth of progress, a 1996 scholarly history of the U.S. Forest Service is titled A Conspiracy of Optimism. The precedence of wilderness on such large scale in New York State hinged on how its people rejected any diluting definition or redefinition of its forest preserve lands. So where I went with that, okay, the wild forest lands, all right, they knew then on how important this was, not only for our forest lands, but also the importance of if you let them in to do one thing, they know it'll get out of hand real quick. Okay, so we can argue that in truly preserving its public forest lands, New York State simply accomplished in its public backyard what the federal government then lacked the foresight or political will to achieve on its national public lands in the West. New York State set in motion the preservation of wild lands in perpetuity, forever, to preserve not just forests, but wild forest lands. I will leave the link to this story in the description of this video because it is a long read, and it's an amazing read. But as you can hear, well, first of all, it's morning, and second of all, I'm not a strong reader. I stumble, my lines jump, my words jumble. So, but it is a very good read on the history. So, and there's dates. Our wilderness is very important. Our trees, our animals. God made his earth, okay? A beautiful place. So I'm going to stop this screen for a moment, and we're going to go to something else that goes along with this, in my opinion. And this is where my heart shook. Okay. Okay, so this article here is really important. And the reason for this being is because this article starts off with a picture like that. It's been long known, okay, remember that, long known, that the trees can slow down some 5G signals. A recent federal study aims to figure out just how much. In order to create more accurate signal strength, predicted models why it matters. 5G has the potential to supercharge wireless networks, but its rollout has revealed. Okay, so I need to go to reader's mode for this, so I'm going to take this off the screen really quick, and I'm going to go to my phone and email this to myself in reader's mode, or actually I could probably just read it from my phone. This is very concerning to me. All right, let's first go to reader's mode, if I can. January 7th, 2022. Okay. Overcoming 5G's problem. It's been long known. So their strength and prediction models find it accurate that 5G, the potential to supercharge wireless networks, but the rollout has revealed a range of complex challenges. Researchers at the National Institute of Standards and Technology measured the strength of the signals that rely on high-frequency millimeter wave spectrum through different types of trees during different seasons of the year. Researchers have known that obstacles like foliage or even rain could reduce millimeter wave signal strength. Remember when DirecTV and Dish Network came out and we knew when it would rain? It was almost, you just knew that you wouldn't be watching TV during a regular just rainstorm or even just a little thunderstorm. You would no longer have cable at that moment because it ran by satellite. So the companies, DirecTV and Dish Network, figured out that they had to move their satellites differently. Okay. I used to have DirecTV a long time ago, and it was really, really bad. But then they came back out and they took off the old dish and they put on a new one. And they said, well, we had figured out that we have to place it here because of the mountain and the trees. Okay, so they knew back then. And that was like a long time ago, like 20 years ago or more. All right, so they're around there. Let's see. So yeah, they know about the impact trees have. Okay, another thing. Trees are animals' homes. Trees give off oxygen. Trees also take in carbon dioxide. Okay, so just putting that out there. Trees' lives matter, and trees are important. The researchers conducted measurements on 7 types of trees at their campus at Gaithersburg, Maryland. Maryland seems to be doing an awful lot of stuff lately. As expected, the leafier the tree, the more strength the signal lost. Nada Gomi, chief of NIST's Wireless Networks Division in the Communications Technology Laboratory, told Axios, the research, which is part of an ongoing project, aims to provide more precise measurement of that signal lost, which Gomi says NIST, we're just going to call it NIST, is sharing to help make modeling more accurate. What they're saying, by providing measurements, the methods to measure, we're enabling others to more accurately, precisely assess the loss so that it can be overcome, Gomi said. We believe it can be overcome. The big picture. Verizon already uses millimeter wave spectrum for some of its 5G services, but both it and AT&T plan to use airways at lower frequency, known as the C-band, to expand 5G services. Spectrum at the lower frequency can better penetrate obstacles, but the C-band comes with its own set of controversies amid concerns from the aviation industry about potential interference. T-Mobile isn't using C-band for its 5G services and has avoided the drama. With more services crowding airwaves, Gomi says using millimeter wave spectrum and overcoming its limitations will be necessary. Together, government and industry can accelerate security modernization and adapt a robust cyber posture that involves with the complexity of modern government. Okay, a series of messaging missteps is threatening the credibility of the Federal Health Agency. Critics say the White House isn't doing enough to manage the fallout. And this goes on a little bit about some other stuff that really does not make sense in this article. So I'm not going to go into that, but it has me question why it's even in there. Okay. Wildlife preserves. They're preserved for a reason. Our wetlands are protected. Our forests are protected. Okay. They even mentioned the clean air and how they were amazed of the clean air here in the Adirondacks. There's certain people all up in here as of late last year, including Kathy Hochul. I didn't know why, but I was very, very irate and very concerned. I love it here. It's cold right now. Tonight we're supposed to have 25 to 35 below wind chill factor. But through the seasons, our land is beautiful, okay? And I got thinking about some things that have been happening to around the United States and around the world. Their 5G is so important. How important is it and why? And what are they willing to go the lengths to do? The beginning of this article says it's been long known that trees can slow down some 5G signals. How big trees are and how much foliage they have and what parts of the year. Is it weird that they're starting this off in the winter when the foliage is mostly to all gone down onto the ground, off the trees? Why didn't they do it sooner? Or why didn't they wait till spring or summer? These are questions that I have. And I got thinking about California and the big redwoods and how beautiful they are. Go look up to what's happening to those forests. There's people there who've had questions on how those wildfires have started. And I'm not speculating that it was anything unnatural. It could be natural. But I can tell you what right now, that we here do not have that problem the way they do with a wildfire starting. Although we have had wildfires, it's important that we, the people, stand to protect our wildlife, our forests, our wetlands, all of it, to sustain healthy life here on earth. God put us here to tend to his land for his purpose, not of our own. If our trees are stopping from what they are trying to accomplish, what lengths to go and say? It's been long known that trees can slow down some 5G signals. Okay, we'll work around it, or maybe it just doesn't work. We don't just start going. I'm going to be careful here and try to calm down, okay? That little fairy crying on a tree stump. A cry for nature. That's who I've been since I was little. And I find this very concerning. Going forward, I'm asking for all eyes and ears on deck here. And I'm asking for your help. I hope you see what I'm getting to here. Big trees are old and wise. They're amazing. And they deserve to grow big and let out their branches and let off as much foliage as they can. It helps us. It helps the animals, which still helps us. It's important for life, healthy life. There was funguses that came here, and it started wiping out some of our birch trees and other trees. And I know that there's certain funguses that plants, and they can get diseases, plants can. And I just wonder, this was let out to plants first before it was let out to us. And I'm going to leave that at that. Yeah. We have many places here that are almost untouched because the forests and the mountains are just so thick. Many people like it that way, and they know the importance of keeping it that way. So, Father in heaven, we're going to need your help on this one because they want to bring something out that it's important to man and not to your children and life and animals and everything on this earth. It seems as though these technologies are starting to oversee some of what's really important here. All right. Well, I need more coffee. I hope you guys understand, and I hope that you were with me when I was struggling through the reading. Because again, I'm not a very strong reader, but I really do try. I remember as a little girl sitting and playing with things and walking around and just looking at just how awesome a tree is. And I'm 45 years old and I'm still that way today. And it's not just the trees, it's all of God's creation. It's beautiful. And I hope you can see how important this is. All right, y'all have a blessed day, and we need to protect under God. And through him, we can gain the strength and the knowledge and the know-how of what to do next. And to keep our history, because when I read back through that, there was a lot that I did not know that we had gone through to protect. We have to continue that today. Have a great day. God bless.